The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor, and everyone turned to stare at me. Honestly, Amara, can you do anything right? My sister's voice cut through the elegant reception hall like a knife. She stood there in her $1,000 wedding dress, her face twisted in irritation as guests whispered and pointed. You can't even hold a glass properly. This is exactly why I didn't want you serving drinks. I stood frozen, shards of crystal glittering around my feet like broken promises. My hands trembled as I bent down to pick up the pieces, but a waiter rushed over, gently pushing me aside. I've got it, miss, he said, his eyes filled with pity. That pity hurt worse than my sister's words. Leave it, my mother hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me toward the back of the hall. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into my skin through the cheap fabric of my dress. Go stand in the back. And for God's sake, try not to embarrass us any more than you already have. I wanted to ask how exactly I was embarrassing them. Was it my presence? My body? The fact that I existed at all? But I already knew the answer. The DJ started the music again, and the moment passed. Guests returned to their conversations, their laughter filling the space where my humiliation had just hung heavy in the air. I made my way to the corner, past tables draped in silk and centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. This was Vivian's day, my baby sister's wedding day, and I was supposed to be happy for her. I was supposed to smile and congratulate her as she married Marcus, my ex-boyfriend of 4 years. The man who'd told me he loved me, who'd promised me forever, who'd held me on nights when I couldn't stop crying about how my family treated me. The man who dumped me 3 months after meeting my sister at a family dinner. You understand, don't you, Amara? He'd said, unable to meet my eyes. Vivian and I. We connect on a different level. She's going places. She has ambition. What he meant was, she's thin. She's beautiful. She comes from money, and she can advance my career. What he meant was, you were never enough. I pressed my back against the cool wall, watching as Marcus spun Vivian across the dance floor. She was radiant, her blonde hair cascading down her back, her designer dress hugging her perfect figure. Everything about her screamed success, beauty, worthiness. Everything about me screamed the opposite. I still can't believe they actually invited her. The voice came from a group of bridesmaids clustered near the bar. I recognized Ashley, Vivian's college roommate. I mean, talk about awkward. Your ex-boyfriend marrying your sister? I would die. Well, it's not like Amara had much dignity to begin with. Another voice chimed in. Did you see that dress she's wearing? It looks like she got it from a thrift store. I had gotten it from a thrift store. It was all I could afford. Vivian told me Marcus only dated her out of pity. Ashley continued. Can you imagine? Being the pity girlfriend? Their laughter felt like acid in my veins. I pulled out my phone, just to have something to do with my hands. My lock screen photo mocked me, a picture from 2 years ago, when I'd still had hope that things might get better, when I'd still believed that hard work and kindness would be enough. My thumb hovered over the contacts. There was almost no one to call. No friends who hadn't slowly drifted away when they realized associating with me meant dealing with my family's disdain. No support system except I scrolled past the usual names and found it. The contact I'd saved 3 years ago and never deleted, even though I'd promised myself I'd never use it. Unknown number. Soul. My chest tightened as memories flooded back. A rainy night. Blood on my apartment floor. A man's voice, thick with an accent, whispering gratitude I didn't think I deserved. One call, he'd said as I'd wrapped his wounds with shaking hands. Any time. Anywhere. You saved my life. I owe you everything. I'd refused his money. Refused everything except that number, saved in my phone like a lifeline I was too proud to grab. I stared at it now, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. Amara! My mother's voice snapped me back to reality. She was rushing toward me, her face flushed with anger. What are you doing hiding back here? Vivian wants family photos. Get up front. You said to stay in the back, I reminded her quietly. Well, now I'm saying get up front. But she looked me up and down, her lip curling. Actually, maybe just stand behind everyone else. We don't want you ruining the shots. Something inside me cracked. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like this. It wasn't even the 100th time. But something about this moment, standing in the corner at my ex-boyfriend's wedding to my sister, being told I'd ruin photos just by existing, finally broke through the numbness I'd built up over years of this treatment. I followed her to the front of the hall, where a photographer was arranging family members on the grand staircase. My father stood at the top, distinguished in his expensive suit, looking every bit the successful businessman he was. Vivian posed next to Marcus, both of them glowing with happiness and champagne. Amara, sweetie, maybe stand on the end, the photographer suggested gently. That way we can crop if needed. Crop me out. He meant they could crop me out. I took my position at the far edge, watching as my family arranged themselves in a tableau of perfection. My mother adjusted Vivian's dress. My father put his arm around them both. Marcus whispered something in Vivian's ear that made her giggle. No one looked at me. The camera flashed once, twice, 3 times. Beautiful, the photographer said. Now let's get one of just the bride and groom with immediate family. I started to step forward, but my mother's hand shot out. Amara, he said immediate family, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness that made my stomach turn. I am immediate family. I'm her sister. You know what I mean, the important people. Just step aside for a moment, darling. Darling. She called me darling while erasing me from my own sister's wedding photos. I stepped down from the staircase, my legs moving automatically while my brain struggled to process what was happening. Around me, guests pretended not to notice. Or maybe they did notice and just didn't care. I found myself walking toward the bathroom, my vision tunneling. The sounds of the reception faded. The music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, until all I could hear was my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. The bathroom was empty, thankfully. I locked myself in a stall and finally let the tears come. They weren't loud, dramatic sobs, just silent streams down my cheeks that I wiped away with cheap toilet paper. How had I let it get this bad? I knew the answer. It had always been this bad. I'd just gotten better at pretending it wasn't. Growing up, I'd been the before picture in my family's story, the chubby older daughter who never quite fit in. While Vivian excelled at everything, gymnastics, pageants, academics, I'd struggled with my weight, my grades, my inability to be what they wanted. If you just tried harder, my mother used to say, looking at me with disappointment. If you just cared about yourself more. I had tried. God, I'd tried. Diets that left me starving and ashamed. Exercise routines I couldn't maintain. Therapy I couldn't afford. Nothing was ever enough. And then Marcus had come along. He'd seemed different at first. Kind. Understanding. He'd told me I was beautiful. That my size didn't matter. That he loved me for who I was inside. I'd believed him. For 4 years, I'd believed him. Until he met Vivian. Then suddenly, I wasn't enough. I'd never been enough. I'd just been convenient until something better came along. My phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out, expecting another passive-aggressive text from my mother about how I needed to smile more or stop making scenes. Instead, I saw a notification from the photographer's assistant. They'd already posted some of the photos to a private gallery. I opened the link, my hands shaking. The first photo was beautiful. My family gathered on the staircase, all smiles and perfect poses. My mother's arm around Vivian. My father's proud stance. Marcus looking every bit the successful groom. And me, cropped out. Just the edge of my shoulder visible, already disappearing from the frame. I scrolled through the rest. More of the same. Photos where I'd been standing right there, now edited as if I'd never existed at all. The door to the bathroom opened and I heard voices, more bridesmaids. Did you see Marcus's face when he first saw Vivian today? One of them gushed, like he'd seen an angel. Right! I can't believe he ever dated that sister of hers. What was he thinking? Probably wasn't thinking with his brain, if you know what I mean. They erupted in laughter. I stayed silent in my stall, my hand pressed against my mouth to keep from making a sound. I waited until they left, their giggles fading down the hallway. Then I looked at my phone again. At that contact I'd saved 3 years ago. It had been a Thursday night, pouring rain, when I'd heard the commotion in the alley behind my apartment building. I should have called the police. Any sane person would have called the police. But something about the way the man was lying there, bleeding from a wound in his side, his eyes barely open, something made me act instead of think. I'd dragged him up to my apartment, all 6 feet of lean muscle and expensive torn clothes. He'd been delirious, speaking in a language I didn't understand, fading in and out of consciousness. I'd cleaned his wound with shaking hands and supplies from my first aid kit, wrapped it in bandages, given him water and aspirin, stayed up all night making sure he didn't die on my couch. When he'd woken up the next morning, his dark eyes had focused on me with an intensity that made me want to look away. "You saved me," he'd said in heavily accented English. "Why?" "You needed help," I'd answered simply. "I couldn't just leave you there." He'd studied me for a long moment, and I'd become painfully aware of how I must look. Oversized sweatpants, messy hair, the weight I'd always been ashamed of on full display. But he hadn't looked at me with disgust. He'd looked at me like I was something precious. "My name is Ji-hoon," he'd said. "Kang Ji-hoon, and I owe you a debt I can never repay." I'd laughed, uncomfortable with the seriousness in his voice. "You don't owe me anything. I'm just glad you're okay." "You don't understand." He'd reached for his phone, typing something quickly. "In my world, debts like this are sacred. Life debts are not taken lightly." "Your world?" I'd asked, confused. He'd given me a small smile. "It's complicated, but please take this number. If you ever need anything, protection, money, help of any kind, you call this number. One call, anytime, anywhere. I will come." I'd saved the number to make him feel better, never imagining I'd actually use it. He'd left later that day, after I'd checked his wound one more time. Before he'd gone, he'd tried to give me money, but I'd refused. "Just get somewhere safe," I'd told him. "That's payment enough." He'd looked at me like I'd said something profound. Then he'd bowed, and disappeared into the afternoon rain. I'd never heard from him again. For 3 years, that number had sat in my phone, a reminder of one strange night when I'd done something good and asked for nothing in return. Now, locked in this bathroom stall while my family celebrated my erasure, I stared at that number. One call, anytime, anywhere. But what would I even say? What could he possibly do? Come rescue me from a wedding reception? Make my family love me? Change the fact that I'd always been the wrong daughter, the wrong girlfriend, the wrong everything? I wiped my eyes and stood up, straightening my thrift store dress. I needed to get through this day. Tomorrow, I could fall apart. Tomorrow, I could figure out what to do with the rest of my life. But tonight, I just needed to survive. I walked back out into the reception hall, pasting on the smile I'd perfected over years of practice. The smile that said, "Everything's fine, I'm fine, don't worry about me." Vivian was cutting the cake now, Marcus's hand over hers on the knife. The photographer snapped away, capturing their perfect moment. "There you are," my mother said, appearing at my elbow. "Vivian wants you to help serve the cake. Try not to mess it up like you did with the champagne." I nodded mutely and made my way to the cake table. The tiered monstrosity was decorated with sugar flowers and gold leaf, probably costing more than I made in a month. As I started cutting slices and placing them on plates, I heard more whispers around me. "Poor thing. It must be so hard. At least she's trying to be supportive." Their pity felt like poison. An hour later, as the party was in full swing, Marcus approached me for the first time all evening. He looked uncomfortable, tugging at his collar. "Hey, Amara," he said, his voice low. "Can we talk for a second?" I set down the stack of plates I'd been collecting. "Sure." He led me to a quiet corner, away from the crowds. For a moment he just looked at me, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt? Regret? I couldn't tell. "I just wanted to say, I know this is weird," he started. "Me marrying Vivian. I know it probably hurts, and I'm sorry for that." "Are you?" The words came out before I could stop them. "Are you really sorry, Marcus? Or are you just feeling guilty for 2 seconds before you go back to your perfect life?" His jaw tightened. "That's not fair. What's not fair is you dating me for 4 years, telling me you loved me, then dumping me for my sister the moment you realized she could do more for your career." "It wasn't like that," he said, but he couldn't meet my eyes. "Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Make me understand how you went from promising me forever to marrying her in less than 2 years." "I grew up," he snapped. "I realized what I wanted from life. Vivian and I have the same goals, the same vision. We're a team. With you, it was always—" He trailed off. "Always what?" I pushed. "Say it, Marcus. With me, it was always what?" "It was always me taking care of you," he said finally. "Your insecurities, your family drama, your weight issues. It was exhausting, Amara. Vivian doesn't need taking care of. She's strong, she's confident, she's—" "Everything I'm not," I finished for him. "Just say it. She's everything I'm not, and that's why you chose her." He had the decency to look ashamed. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did. But thanks for finally being honest." I turned to walk away. "Amara, wait." He grabbed my arm. "I do care about you. I want you to be happy. I hope you can find someone who what? Who can see past my flaws? Who can tolerate me better than you could?" I pulled my arm free. "Don't worry about me, Marcus. I'll be fine. I've always been fine on my own." I walked away. Before he could respond, my heart pounding. I'd never stood up to him like that before. It felt good and terrible at the same time. The reception was winding down now. Elderly relatives were leaving, calling Ubers and saying their goodbyes. The DJ played slower songs. Vivian and Marcus danced in the center of the floor, lost in their own world. I checked my phone. 11:47 p.m. In 13 minutes, this day would be over. I could go home, lock my door, and pretend none of this had happened. My mother found me one last time as I was gathering my purse. "You're leaving already?" she asked, her tone implying I was somehow failing again. "I have work tomorrow," I lied. "Well, before you go, Vivian wanted me to tell you thank you for coming. It meant a lot to her." I almost laughed. Vivian hadn't spoken to me all night, hadn't looked at me, hadn't acknowledged my existence except to criticize me for dropping that glass. "Tell her congratulations," I said flatly. "Amara, I know today was hard for you," my mother said. And for a second, I thought she might actually say something kind. "But you need to move on. This bitterness isn't attractive. It's part of why you're still alone." And there it was. "Good night, Mother," I said, and walked toward the exit. I made it to the parking lot before the tears started again. The November air was cold against my face as I fumbled for my car keys. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped them twice. "Get it together," I whispered to myself. "Just get home." But I couldn't get it together. 3 years of holding everything in, of pretending I was okay, of accepting that I deserved this treatment. It all came crashing down at once. I leaned against my car, my breath coming in gasps. In the distance, I could still hear music from the reception. Laughter, celebration. They were celebrating. And I was falling apart in a parking lot. Alone, like always. My phone was in my hand before. I'd consciously decided to grab it. My fingers moved on autopilot, pulling up that contact. Unknown number, Seoul. I stared at it through blurry tears. This was insane. It had been 3 years. He'd probably forgotten about me. or the number didn't work anymore, or he'd never meant it in the first place. But what if he had meant it? What if, just once in my life, someone actually followed through on a promise they made to me? My thumb hovered over the call button. One call, anytime, anywhere. I thought about everything that had happened today. The humiliation, the erasure from photos, the pity, the way Marcus had called me exhausting, the way my own mother had blamed me for being bitter about watching my ex-boyfriend marry my sister. I thought about going home to my empty apartment, waking up tomorrow to the same life, the same pain, the same feeling of never being enough. And I thought about Ji-hoon's eyes when he'd looked at me that night 3 years ago, the way he'd treated me like I mattered, like saving his life had been remarkable instead of foolish. I opened the messaging app instead of calling. My fingers trembled as I typed. The message was simple. Just 3 words. Come get me. I added the address of the venue and hit send before I could change my mind. The message showed as delivered. Then, almost immediately, it showed as read. My heart stopped. For a long minute, nothing happened. No response, no typing indicator. Just that single word, read. I'd made a mistake. Of course I had. This was stupid, desperate, pathetic. My phone buzzed with a response. On my way. 2 words. That was all, but they made my knees weak. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. What had I done? What was I expecting to happen? He'd show up and what? Rescue me like some kind of fairy tale, make everything better. Real life didn't work that way. I almost sent another message telling him not to come, that I'd made a mistake. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the exhaustion of being strong for so long. Maybe it was the desire, just once, to have someone actually show up for me. Maybe I was just tired of being alone. I leaned against my car and waited. 20 minutes passed, then 30. The reception was ending now. People were streaming out of the venue, calling out their goodbyes. I saw my parents leave with some relatives. Didn't see them notice me in the shadows of the parking lot. 45 minutes. Maybe he wasn't coming. Maybe those 2 words were just him being polite. Maybe. The first black SUV appeared at the entrance to the parking lot, then a second, then a third. They moved in formation, sleek and expensive, their headlights cutting through the darkness. They didn't park in the designated spots. Instead, they blocked the main entrance to the venue, cutting off the exit. People stopped mid-conversation, staring. The remaining guests who were leaving found their path blocked. Confusion rippled through the parking lot. "What's going on?" someone asked. "Is this part of the wedding?" "Call security." I pushed off from my car, my heart hammering. This couldn't be him. This was too much. This was... The doors to the SUVs opened simultaneously, and men in black suits stepped out. They moved with military precision, fanning out to create a perimeter. Each one of them looked dangerous in a way that made the security guards at the venue back up instinctively. And then he emerged from the center vehicle, Kang Ji-hoon. I'd remember him as lean and wounded, delirious with pain in my apartment. The man walking toward the venue now was someone else entirely. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car, tailored perfectly to his tall frame. His dark hair was styled back, revealing sharp features and those same intense eyes I remembered. But everything else about him radiated power, control, danger. He moved like a predator, each step deliberate and controlled. The men in suits fell into formation behind him, following him toward the entrance. Toward me. Our eyes met across the parking lot, and the world seemed to stop. He'd come. He'd actually come. My mother's voice cut through the moment. What on earth is going on? Who are these people? Ji-hoon didn't look at her. His gaze stayed locked on mine as he walked closer. When he was a few feet away, he spoke, his accent thicker than I remembered, but his words clear. Amara. My name on his lips sounded like a prayer. You called. I didn't think... I couldn't finish the sentence. I made a promise, he said simply. Life debts are sacred. Behind me, I heard more commotion. Vivian and Marcus had come outside, probably to see what was causing the disruption. I heard my sister's sharp intake of breath. Amara, what is this? My father demanded, striding over. Who are these men? What have you done? Ji-hoon's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes as he looked at my father. Mr. Chen, he said, his tone polite but laced with something cold. I'm here to collect someone who belongs under my protection. Protection? My mother laughed nervously. I think there's been some misunderstanding. This is a private event. You need to leave. There's no misunderstanding, Ji-hoon replied. He turned back to me, and his voice softened. You asked me to come get you. I'm here. The question is, do you want to leave with me? Every eye in that parking lot turned to me. My family stared in shock. Vivian's mouth hung open. Marcus looked pale. The remaining wedding guests whispered frantically, probably recording this on their phones. And Ji-hoon waited, patient and certain, like he had all the time in the world. This was the moment, the choice that would change everything. I thought about going back to my apartment, back to my life of being invisible and inadequate. I thought about the photos I'd been cropped out of, the champagne glass I'd dropped, the way Marcus had called me exhausting. Then I thought about the way Ji-hoon had looked at me 3 years ago when I'd asked for nothing in return for saving his life. Like I was valuable just for being kind. I stepped forward. Yes, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. I want to leave. Amara, don't be ridiculous, my mother started. You can't just... I can, I interrupted her for the first time in my life. I'm leaving. Ji-hoon extended his hand to me. I took it. His fingers were warm and strong, his grip gentle but secure. He led me toward the SUV, and his men created a path, blocking my family from following. Wait! Vivian's voice was shrill. You can't just take her. This is my wedding day. Ji-hoon paused, glancing back at her with an expression of mild disdain. Your wedding day, he repeated. Yes, I've heard. Enough about this wedding. He pulled out his phone, tapped something, then turned to Marcus. Marcus Chen, is it? Marcus nodded, looking confused and frightened. You own a software development company, Ji-hoon continued. Recently secured a contract with the Lee Corporation for a new app development project. Quite a lucrative deal. How do you know that? Marcus demanded. I know many things. Ji-hoon's smile didn't reach his eyes. For instance, I know that contract was awarded based on falsified credentials. I know you claim to have developed 3 apps that were actually created by outsourced teams in India. I know the Lee Corporation doesn't tolerate fraud. Marcus's face went white. That's... You can't prove? I can prove everything. Ji-hoon turned to my sister. Vivian Chen, you claim to graduate summa cum laude from Columbia University on your resume for your job at Whitmore and Associates. Yet your actual GPA was 3.2, and you were on academic probation for 2 semesters, Vivian gasped. How dare you? Your employer values honesty, Ji-hoon continued calmly. I wonder what they'd think if they knew the truth. He turned to my parents, and I saw my father actually take a step back. Mr. and Mrs. Chen, your company has been very successful. Congratulations. Though I wonder if your investors know about the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, the ones that aren't declared on your tax returns. This is slander, my father blustered. I'll sue you for... You'll do nothing, Ji-hoon said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Because every word I've said is documented, verified, and ready to be delivered to the appropriate authorities. Unless... He paused, looking at each of them in turn. Unless you agree to leave Amara alone. Completely alone. No calls, no texts, no attempts at contact. You will remove her from your will, your emergency contacts, any and all documentation that ties her to your family. You will act as though she never existed. You want us to disown her? My mother asked, incredulous. No, I said quietly, finding my voice. He's giving me what I should have done years ago. cutting you out of my life. Amara, sweetheart, my father started, using that false warmth I'd heard my whole life. You're upset. This is all very emotional. Why don't we talk about this tomorrow when... When what? When I've calmed down? When I've accepted my place again? I shook my head. No, I'm done. You're being dramatic, Vivian snapped. All because you're jealous of my wedding. I looked at her, really looked at her. Maybe for the first time without the filter of hoping she'd finally see me as worth something. I'm not jealous of your wedding, Vivian. I'm sad for you. Because you married a man who values status over love. You're stuck in a family that only cares about appearances. And one day when you're not perfect anymore, when you can't meet their impossible standards, you'll understand exactly how I've felt my whole life. Tears streamed down my face, but I wasn't ashamed of them anymore. I saved a man's life 3 years ago, I continued, my voice shaking but clear. I didn't do it for money or recognition. I did it because it was right. And he remembered. He kept his promise. That's more than any of you have ever done for me. Ji-hoon squeezed my hand gently. We should go. I nodded, letting him guide me toward the SUV. One of his men opened the door for me and I slid into the leather interior. Ji-hoon sat beside me, and the door closed, muffling the sound of my family's protests outside. Through the tinted window, I watched them standing there, my mother's face red with anger, my father already on his phone probably calling his lawyer, Vivian clinging to Marcus's arm as he looked shell-shocked. The SUV pulled away smoothly, the other vehicles following in formation. Only then did I start to shake. It's okay, Ji-hoon said softly. You're safe now. I don't understand, I whispered. Why did you come? It's been 3 years. I'm nobody. Why would you... You saved my life, he said simply. And you asked for nothing. Do you know how rare that is? In my world, everyone wants something. Power, money, protection. But you just wanted me to be safe. That's just being a decent person. Exactly. He smiled and it transformed his face, making him look younger. You're a good person, Amara. Your family's inability to see that is their failure, not yours. I laughed, but it came out as a sob. I'm a mess. I'm overweight, unemployed, broke, and I just burned every bridge I had. You're kind, he corrected. You're compassionate. You have the courage to walk away from people who hurt. That takes strength most people never find. Who are you really? I asked. 3 years ago, you were bleeding in an alley. Now you show up with a motorcade and detailed information about my family's secrets. What world do you live in? He was quiet for a moment, studying me. A complicated one. A dangerous one. But also one where loyalty means everything, where debts are honored, and where people like your family would never survive. He paused. I can tell you everything if you want to know. But first, I need to ask, where do you want to go? I have a hotel suite prepared for you. Or if you prefer, I can take you to your apartment so you can pack your things. Pack my things for what? For your new life, he said gently. You called me to come get you, Amara. I'm not just here to rescue you from a bad night. I'm here to give you the freedom you deserve. I looked at him, this mysterious man who'd appeared out of nowhere to upend my entire existence. Part of me was terrified, but a larger part, the part that had been slowly dying in that parking lot, at that wedding, in that family, felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The hotel, I said finally. I don't want to go back to my apartment tonight. He nodded and spoke to the driver in Korean. The SUV changed direction smoothly. What happens now? I asked. Now you rest. Tomorrow we talk about what you want from your life. And then, he smiled. Then we make it happen. Just like that. Just like that. I leaned back against the seat, exhaustion washing over me. The events of the night felt surreal, like something that had happened to someone else. But the warmth of Ji-hoon's hand still holding mine was real. The gentle rumble of the engine was real. The lights of the city passing outside the window were real. This was real. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserved something good. The SUV pulled up to a luxury hotel downtown, the kind of place I'd never even walked past without feeling out of place. Doormen rushed to open our doors, and Ji-hoon guided me through a lobby dripping with chandeliers and marble. We took a private elevator to the penthouse suite. "This is too much," I protested as he opened the door to reveal a space bigger than my entire apartment. "It's yours for as long as you need it," he said. "There are clothes in the bedroom, toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything at all, there's a phone by the bed. Call the front desk and they'll contact me immediately." "You're leaving?" I felt a sudden panic. "Just for tonight. You need time to process everything." He hesitated, then added, "But I'm in the suite next door. If you need me, I'm 30 seconds away." I nodded, trying to keep the tears at bay. "Amara," he said gently, "what you did today, walking away from them, that was the bravest thing I've seen in a long time. It doesn't feel brave. It feels terrifying. Brave things usually do." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow everything will look different." After he left, I wandered through the suite in a daze. The bedroom alone was twice the size of my current living space. The bathroom had a soaking tub and a shower with more jets than I could count. The closet held clothes in my exact size, not the size I wished I was, but my actual size, in beautiful fabrics and flattering cuts. Someone had thought about this, had prepared for me. I found a note on the bedside table. "You matter. You always did. They just couldn't see it. JH." I sat on the edge of the bed and finally, completely broke down. The tears weren't just about tonight. They were for every moment I'd swallowed my pain, every time I'd made myself smaller to make others comfortable, every year I'd spent believing I was the problem. I cried until I had nothing left, until the silk pillowcase was soaked and my throat was raw. And then, somehow, I slept. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The wedding, the humiliation, the text message. Ji-hoon. I found my phone on the nightstand. It was past noon. I had 47 missed calls. Most from my mother, several from Vivian, a few from numbers I didn't recognize. There were texts, too. Lots of them. From my mother. "How dare you embarrass us like that? Call me immediately." From Vivian. "You ruined my wedding. I hope you're happy." From Marcus. "That was really messed up, Amara. We need to talk." And from numbers I didn't know. Is this the girl from the wedding? OMG, what happened? I deleted them all without responding. There was also a text from Ji-hoon. "Lunch is ready whenever you are. No rush." I showered, in that ridiculous bathroom, letting the hot water wash away the remnants of yesterday. I found clothes that actually fit me in the closet, soft jeans and a cashmere sweater that felt like a hug, and made myself presentable. When I opened the door to the suite, one of Ji-hoon's men was standing in the hallway. "Miss Chen," he said with a slight bow, "Mr. Kang is expecting you. This way, please." He led me next door, where Ji-hoon was waiting in a suite identical to mine. The dining table was set with what looked like enough food for 10 people. "I didn't know what you liked," he said, looking almost embarrassed. "So I ordered everything." There was Korean food, American food, Italian food, Chinese food, breakfast items, lunch items, desserts. Despite everything, I laughed. "This is insane. Is it too much?" He looked genuinely concerned. "It's perfect," I said, and meant it. We sat down, and for a few minutes, we just ate in comfortable silence. The food was incredible, but even better was the way Ji-hoon didn't watch me eat, didn't comment on my portions, didn't make me feel like I needed to justify anything. "So," I said finally, setting down my fork, "are you going to tell me who you really are? What you really do?" He took a sip of his coffee, considering. "What do you know about organized crime in Seoul?" My heart skipped. Are you, are you in the mafia? That's a very Western term for it. But essentially, yes. He met my eyes steadily. My family controls significant portions of Seoul's underground economy: real estate, entertainment, import-export businesses, some legitimate, some less so. So when I found you in that alley, I was recovering from a territorial dispute that turned violent. I'd been betrayed by someone I trusted, left for dead. He smiled slightly. And then this beautiful woman dragged me into her apartment and saved my life, without asking a single question about who I was or what I'd done. I should have been more careful, I said. That was stupid of me. That was kind of you. There's a difference. He leaned forward. Amara, in my world, kindness without motive is almost unheard of. You could have robbed me, called the police, left me to die. Instead, you gave me water, bandaged my wounds, and told me to get somewhere safe. You treated me like a human being, not a commodity. Anyone would have done the same. No, he said firmly. They wouldn't have. And the fact that you think they would tells me everything about why your family never appreciated you. I didn't know what to say to that. So what now? I asked instead. You can't just keep me in a hotel suite forever. No, but I can give you options. He pulled out a folder. I've taken the liberty of looking into a few things. You mentioned you're unemployed. Your last job was at a bookstore that closed 6 months ago. Before that, you worked as a teacher's aide, but the school cut funding. You're qualified to teach, but you haven't been able to find a position. How do you know all that? I make it my business to know things about people I care about. He pushed the folder toward me. There are 3 options here. 1, I can set you up with a job at one of my legitimate businesses. The pay is good, the work is meaningful, and no one will question my recommendation. 2, I can provide you with enough money to go back to school, get additional certifications, pursue whatever career you actually want. 3, I can simply give you enough to live comfortably while you figure out what you want to do with your life. I stared at the folder without opening it. That's too much. I can't accept. You saved my life, he interrupted. In my culture, that creates a bond that can never be broken. You could ask me for anything, and I would give it to you. This is nothing, but I don't want to be a charity case. You're not. His voice was gentle but firm. You're someone who deserves opportunities that have been denied to you by people who should have supported you. I'm simply leveling the playing field. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were detailed job descriptions, salary information, apartment listings in nice neighborhoods. There's one more thing, Ji-hoon said quietly. And this is completely optional, with no pressure whatsoever. I looked up at him. My organization values loyalty above all else. People who work for me, who are under my protection, they become family. Real family. The kind that doesn't abandon you when things get hard. The kind that shows up when you call at midnight from a wedding reception. He paused. If you wanted, you could join us. Not in any dangerous capacity, he added quickly, but in a way that gives you purpose, community, and protection. You want me to join the Korean mafia? I said incredulously. He laughed, a real, genuine laugh that made his whole face light up. When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. But yes, essentially. Though we prefer to think of it as a very large, very loyal extended family that happens to have some unconventional business practices. Despite everything, I smiled. This is insane. Yes, he agreed. But is it more insane than spending the rest of your life trying to earn love from people who will never give it to you? He had a point. I need time to think, I said. Of course. Take all the time you need. The suite is yours indefinitely. And Amara? He waited until I met his eyes. Whatever you decide, you're not alone anymore. You have options. You have choices. You have someone who will answer when you call. Why? I asked, the question bursting out of me. Why do you care this much? It can't just be because I bandaged a wound 3 years ago. He was quiet for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. When I was lying in that alley, bleeding out, I'd already accepted that I was going to die. I'd lived a violent life, made enemies, hurt people. I thought I deserved it. And then you appeared, this gentle soul who asked for nothing, who risked your own safety to help a stranger. You reminded me that goodness still exists in the world, that not everyone is out for themselves. You saved more than my life that night, Amara. You saved something in me I thought I'd lost. Tears welled up in my eyes again. So when you texted me last night, when you asked me to come get you, there was nowhere else I would have been. Nothing else that mattered, because people like you, genuinely kind, genuinely good people, deserve to be protected. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more stories like this one. We sat there in that hotel suite surrounded by ridiculous amounts of food, and I felt something shift inside me. For so long, I'd believed that my worth was tied to what others thought of me, that I needed to earn love, to be perfect, to be smaller and quieter and less. But maybe I'd been wrong. Maybe I'd always had worth and they just couldn't see it. I don't know what I want yet, I admitted, but I know what I don't want. I don't want to go back to my old life. I don't want to spend another day trying to fix something that was never broken. Then you won't, Jihoon said simply. Over the next few weeks, I started to rebuild. I got an apartment in a nice neighborhood, nothing too fancy, but mine, paid for with money Jihoon insisted was mine by right of what I'd done for him. I started therapy with a counselor who actually understood what it meant to grow up in a family that made you feel invisible. I took a job at a community center teaching reading to kids who struggled in school. The pay wasn't amazing, but I loved it. And when I needed anything, furniture, clothes, help navigating the city, Jihoon's people were there. I met others in his organization. They called him boss, treated him with reverence and fear, but also with genuine affection. And they treated me with respect too, once they understood I was under his protection. My family tried to contact me repeatedly. My mother left voicemails ranging from angry to manipulative to tearful. Vivian sent emails detailing how I'd ruined her marriage. Apparently Marcus's contract had indeed been revoked after Jihoon's revelations. My father had his lawyers send letters threatening legal action, though for what, I wasn't sure. I blocked them all. It hurt less than I'd expected. 3 months after that wedding night, I was having coffee with Jihoon at a cafe near my apartment when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Amara? It was Vivian's voice, small and broken. Please don't hang up. I almost did anyway, but something in her tone stopped me. What do you want, Vivian? Marcus left me. He said I was too damaged, too high maintenance. That being with me was exhausting. She laughed bitterly. He used the same words he used about you. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Are you? Her voice sharpened. You got your revenge. You ruined our lives. Isn't this what you wanted? No, I said quietly. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to stop hurting. Mom and Dad are furious. They blame me for how you turned out. They say I should have been nicer to you, that we drove you away. Everything is falling apart, and it's all my fault. She was crying now. I need help, Amara. I need money. Can you... I hung up. Jihoon raised an eyebrow. Your sister? She wants money. She thinks I owe her something. Do you? I thought about it for a moment, really thought about it. Then I shook my head. No, I don't owe them anything. I owe myself peace. He smiled. Good answer. 6 months later, I was completely settled into my new life. I'd made real friends, people who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them. I loved my job. I loved my apartment. I loved waking up every day without that crushing weight of inadequacy. And somewhere along the way, my relationship with Jihoon had shifted. It started small. Longer conversations over coffee, his hand on the small of my back when we walked through crowded places, the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. "I'm falling for you," he admitted one night over dinner. "I've been falling for you since the moment you told me to get somewhere safe 3 years ago. But I didn't want to pressure you. You've been through so much, and I wanted to give you space to heal." My heart hammered in my chest. I'm not I'm not like the women you probably usually date. I'm not sophisticated or polished or... "You're kind," he interrupted. "You're genuine. You're strong in ways most people never have to be. You're exactly what I want." "I'm scared," I admitted. "What if this is just gratitude? What if..." "Amara." He took my hands in his. "I've had 3 years to feel grateful. This isn't gratitude. This is me, completely and totally in love with you, terrified you'll never feel the same way." I looked at this powerful, dangerous man who'd stopped a wedding for me, who'd protected me, who'd given me the space to find myself again. "I think I'm in love with you too," I whispered, "but I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to trust this." "Then we'll figure it out together," he said simply. "No rush. No pressure. Just us, taking it one day at a time." And we did. It wasn't perfect. I still had moments of doubt, times when I couldn't believe someone like him could want someone like me. I still struggled with the weight of my family's rejection, even though I knew it wasn't my fault. But every time I faltered, Ji-hoon was there. Not to fix me, I didn't need fixing, but to remind me of my worth. A year after that wedding, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Miss Chen," an unfamiliar voice. "My name is Rebecca Mills. I'm a family law attorney. I'm calling because your mother has filed a lawsuit against you for elder abandonment and is seeking financial compensation." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Let me give you my attorney's information." I hung up and texted Ji-hoon's lawyer. Within an hour, the lawsuit was dismissed with a counter-threat so severe that my mother withdrew all legal action and signed a legally binding agreement to never contact me again. I should have felt something. Anger, sadness, relief. Instead, I felt nothing. They were strangers to me now, and that was okay. 2 years after that night in the parking lot, Ji-hoon proposed. Not with some grand gesture or public display, but quietly, over breakfast in my apartment, with a ring he'd had custom made, and a simple question: "Will you build a life with me?" I said yes. Our wedding was small, just close friends and the family Ji-hoon had chosen, the one I'd been adopted into. No one pressured me to lose weight or wear a certain dress or stand in a specific position for photos. I was front and center, exactly where I belonged. On my wedding day, I got one final message from Vivian. "I saw your wedding photos. You look happy. I guess some people get their fairy tale ending after all. Hope you're proud of yourself." I deleted it without responding. But before I walked down the aisle, I took a moment to look at myself in the mirror. I saw a woman who'd survived, who'd found strength, who'd chosen herself when no one else would. I thought about that girl crying in a bathroom stall at her sister's wedding, convinced she'd never be enough. I wished I could tell her what I knew now, that she'd always been enough, that she'd find her people, that the best revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was building a life so full of love and purpose that the people who tried to destroy you became irrelevant. I walked down that aisle toward Ji-hoon, toward the man who'd kept a promise when no one else would, and I realized something profound. I didn't need them to see my worth anymore. I could see it myself, and that, more than anything, was my happy ending. The music swelled. Ji-hoon's eyes filled with tears when he saw me, and I knew, finally completely, that I was home. They'd tried to break me in public, but they didn't know the world would bow to me next. Not because of who I'd married or what I'd achieved, but because I'd finally learned to bow to myself first, to honor my own worth